All right, welcome back inside our proactive newsroom. And joining me now is Kevin Francis. He is the Vice President of Exploration and Technical Services for U.S. Gold Corp. And Kevin, good to have you along. How are you?
Very well, thanks, Steve.
All right, good to have you here, and excited to talk a little bit about what's ahead for your project, and a lot of that has to do with permitting. We'll get to that in just a second, but first, let's talk about where you are, and that's in Wyoming. And it sounds like it's a pretty good place to be working right now as far as mining is concerned.
It has been for a long time. Wyoming is a mineral extraction state, and one of the top revenue producers for the state coffers is, in fact, mining. The world's largest trona deposit, for example, is in Wyoming. Some of the best coal in the United States for power generation comes from Wyoming. The regulators are sophisticated and have been doing permitting for mining operations for a long time.
Yeah, let's talk about your project specifically, and just recap for everyone a little bit about what's been going on there.
Sure. Well, from 3 years ago, when George came on board as CEO, George B., we've taken the project from basically a preliminary economic assessment all the way through pre-feasibility and advanced permitting in simply 3 years. That includes a couple of years of baseline work, all the field work that was necessary for us to compile and put together the mine operating permit, and all the other permitting activities. So it's been a real whirlwind of activity for us. The project itself is gold and copper, and we'll be producing a concentrate of over 100,000 tons, or excuse me, ounces of gold per year, and 20 million pounds of copper annually for the 10-year mine life. So with that as a backdrop, what we recognize that, well, we would need a number of permits in order to complete this activity. Our project is, unlike many others, is blessed in the fact that it lies on private and state-owned lands. So the only federal nexus that we had, or federal activities that we had, were in regard to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So for the Corps, we provided them with a project outline and footprint, and they reviewed our jurisdictional determination, came back and said that no permit was necessary from the Corps, and that we could continue our activities without their interaction. For Fish and Wildlife Service, of course, their concerns are the Endangered Species Act, and we got a letter of compliance from them saying that our project is in complete compliance with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and all of our ongoing activities have been through the Wyoming Game and Fish Department. So we had that behind us, and so the primary activities are through the Wyoming Department of Environmental Quality. And basically, there are a number of divisions underneath that umbrella department that we have permitting activities underway presently. The mine operating permit, which is the key permit that'll permit us to break ground and get going on the operation, was submitted in September of 2021. And we've gone through 2 rounds of technical comments, and it was deemed technically complete the beginning of February, which started the public notice, 4 weeks of public notice. And now we're in a 30-day public comment period, so that by the end of March, we'll have completed that. And then the director of the environmental quality has 30 days in which to sign the permit. So we've been in constant communication with those that are the people that are directing our permit activities, and with the leadership in the department. So that permit, we've been giving guidance of the first half of this year for the approval of the mine operating permit.
And in line with that as well is the air permits and water permits. Like there's a couple of other things that the company's working on as well, correct?
Absolutely, and the most advanced, they're both equally advanced. The water discharge permit went to public notice last month, so there have been a number of publications, and public comment has started on that. So that permit should wrap up. We're also guidance there on the first half of the year. So by June, we should have both the air quality permit and the water discharge permits. I should remind everyone that the industrial siting permit was granted unanimously a year ago in May, and that is for all large industrial projects to ensure that there's a dialogue between the local communities and the company itself, in ensuring that any any perceived impacts are can be mitigated by the state prior to construction.
Kevin, I'm just as we wrap up, just a comment on you mentioned earlier about being on private and state land and no real federal involvement within this particular part of it. And what's interesting about that is does it tend to speed the process up in general and also give you a sort of a better outline as to what needs to be done in order to get to the eventual conclusion you'd like to get to it. They've been doing this for a while. They know how the process works.
Yeah, as I mentioned, they're sophisticated regulators, and they're assisted by independent specialty consultants in areas that they may feel they need bolstered technical skills. In addition to that, the regulators have regulatory acts that specify timelines that are necessary. They, in general, have 30 days in order to respond to our permitting submissions. We can take as long as we want, but they have 30 days to turn it around. So that gives us a permitting timeline assurance in terms of schedule that many other projects in other jurisdictions simply don't have.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's going to be exciting next few months, that's for sure. And we'll be there to follow the story as it develops. Kevin, thank you so much for updating us on what's been happening. And we look forward to talking again soon. Okay.
You bet. Pleasure. Thank you.
All right. There's Kevin Francis, the Vice President of Exploration and Technical Services for U.S. Gold Corp.